Hey, what's up you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring another set of action movie reviews. And this time we'll be talking about Crank 2 High Voltage, the 2012 Total Recall remake, Doomsday, directed by Neil Marshall, as well as War Pigs.
Hey, what's up you guys? Bloody Jacob here, meeting my icon, Catherine Isabel.
Hey, I'm Sylvia Saska.
And I'm Jen Saska.
And we're the Saska Sisters. Get a part of this. Subscribe the little butt down there. Look.
Hey guys, it's been a bit. I want to apologize for that. I think it's been about a week, give or take, since my last video. Maybe I'll talk more about this later, but I basically, not much to explain really. I've just started a new full-time job, so I've been trying to get used to that. Some other stresses in life coming up lately that have caused me to be a little more consistent with my video output. But don't get me wrong, I've still been wanting to make videos, just I've had to focus my energies elsewhere, unfortunately, but I do definitely want to get back to this. I also plan on maybe doing some special Buffy videos within the next week or so, hopefully. But to come back to it, I just wanted to do something a little easy, something a little familiar, and that's another set of my QMR quick movie reviews. And like I said, we're going to talk about a little bit of variety here. At least they're all action movies this time, but they're all pretty distinct from each other. First off, I did want to talk about Crank 2, or Crank High Voltage, again starring Jason Statham and Amy Smart. And this one picks up immediately after the first one. It's about a fucking Chilos. He faces a Chinese mobster who has stolen his nearly indestructible heart and replaced it with a battery-powered ticker, which requires regular jolts of electricity to keep working. So yeah, and that's your launching pad for the second movie. I really liked the first Crank movie. And my brother had blown up Crank 2 as even crazier, even though he skipped watching the first Crank for fucking convenience sake because it wasn't on Hulu. Come on, man, you gotta see them both together, right? I do think both of them are two of Jason Statham's most enjoyable films, at least for me. It's these two Crank movies, Transporter, and I'd have to think about the others, but these are just such easy and good films to get into. What I really enjoy about both of them is that they basically both play like high octane chase movies, because that's what they are. Basically the movie's like one big chase sequence, with kind of crazy chaotic action and kind of skirmishes throughout. It's not like focused on the fighting him at all, but he does what he has to do just to keep moving, and again it kind of redoes the concept, so he has to move fast again, act crazy at the intensity just to keep going. And the movie doesn't skimp on that. It's very to the point. There's no wasted time. It's not a long running time, what there is. I think Jason Statham himself is really enjoyable here. There is more actual fighting in the second Crank movie. At first I wasn't sure if it was as funny as the first one, but I think it is, if not more so. But yeah, Statham actually gets to do a little more fighting in this one. There's a little more gunplay to it, which of course is pleasing to a genre fan. I really like seeing Amy Smart again. I really enjoy her and Statham's chemistry. I think they picked a really good actress, for that kind of movie. And the villains are basically about as one note as the first ones were, but really they're just there, and they're not the point of it. But they're all right. They're all right. And this movie, I also got to mention, it probably includes one of the greatest sex scenes in cinema history. Very romantic along the horse racetrack. So that's all I'll say. Yeah, and pretty off the wall ending too. I know there were interest in doing a third one at some point. I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not. I don't think so at this point, but you can dream, because I really, really do fucking enjoy these movies. I think they're adrenaline rush and a blast. So yeah, if I had to rate Crank 2, I'd give it like an 89%, about a B+. And moving right along, we're going to talk a little bit about the 2012 Total Recall remake, which starred Colin Farrell, Jessica Biel, Kate Beckinsale, and Bryan Cranston. And this one was directed by Len Wiseman, of course, notorious for the Underworld movies, and being married to Kate Beckinsale for a time, which is why this movie also has Bill Nighy in a role, another regular of the Underworld films. And it's about factory worker Douglas Quaid, who begins to suspect that he is a spy after visiting Recall, a company that provides its clients with implemented fake memories of a life that he would like to have led. It goes wrong, and he finds himself on the run. Now, if you guys watch any of my action reviews, Arnold Schwarzenegger is my all-time favorite action hero, one of my favorite actors in general. And Total Recall is one of my very favorite Schwarzenegger movies. This one is, definitely a lot more modernized, of course. It's a little bit more, definitely self-serious, and not just because of the, taking away Arnold's, charm and inherent campiness with that. It just kind of takes itself more seriously in general, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. It's definitely a type of story that could definitely be played to a deeper level. And in that case, it does make it hard to compare to the original film. Now, what one would I actually watch again? Well, the original Schwarzenegger film, for sure. This one isn't quite as memorable, but I don't think it's very bad at all either. In fact, I think it was pretty decent. I do think they could have chosen a better actress for Jessica Biel's role, not just because, or not that she gave a poor performance or anything, but I read a couple of the other actresses they were considering, including Eva Green, and I don't get how you could choose anyone over Eva Green. But Jessica Biel did fine here. I do think she's a capable actress. And then you have Kate Beckinsale, playing who Colin Farrell thinks is his actual wife, but of course ends up being not, and she's part of this whole, conspiracy against him and such of what's actually going on in the world. Kate Beckinsale is definitely the highlight of the movie for me. I fucking love the Underworld movies. And it's different seeing her play a villain here, but she is a force. She has a charisma. She has kind of a command about her that she pulls off really well. And she, of course, does the physicality pretty nicely too. I really, really enjoyed her. And she's pretty much the primary threat and antagonist in the movie. You have Bryan Cranston, but he's not in quite as many scenes, but he's good. He's good here too, of course. No doubt about that. It's Bryan Cranston. But Kate Beckinsale, I think, was definitely the primary villain. Colin Farrell, I thought was fine. It's definitely a different sort of choice, or they could have gone with for the lead, and I do think they did a decent job in casting him. I liked him, but I definitely felt like a spark was missing, and I wasn't really crazy about the chemistry between he and Jessica Biel, but it wasn't too bad. And I do think the action sequences and the fight scenes are pretty good. There's a couple pretty nice chase sequences too that I really enjoyed visually. It looks pretty good. Not really any noticeably bad CG or anything, and there's some practical work in there. Like I said, the story though somehow isn't quite as memorable, not just because of the lack of Arnold cheesiness or anything, but I don't know, this feels a little more, I don't know if I want to say streamlined or just a little bit more generic for what today's action movies are. It just doesn't feel quite as distinct. But I don't want to bash it too much because I actually think this one was pretty solid. I did like it. If I had to rate it, I'd probably give it between like an 80, probably like an 84-85%, a solid B. Won't really put it any higher than that necessarily, because they still didn't really go as deep with this. I think they could have. But still, it's a fun enough concept, and I loved Kate Beckinsale in it, and it's worth that alone. So yeah, what you guys thought about that one? Next up, we're going to be talking about War Pigs, which came out in 2015. It stars Luke Goss, Dolph Lundgren, Chuck Liddell, kinda, and Mickey Rourke, kinda. It's about a ragtag unit of misfits known as the War Pigs who wants to go behind enemy lines to exterminate Nazis by any means necessary. And of course, it takes place during World War II, and yes, I just bought the DVD, for Dolph Lundgren's sake, of course. Dolph Lundgren being one of my other favorite action stars of all time, besides Arnold Schwarzenegger and others like, Jean-Claude Van Damme and such. So of course, this came up when I was just wanting to see, every Dolph Lundgren movie possible. And this isn't really, Dolph Lundgren's movie necessarily. He's more of a co-star, supporting type of character. Luke Goss is kind of our main protagonist. And he doesn't do a bad job here. He does a lot of those, smaller budget action flicks too. I thought he was more believable in this role than I was expecting. Dolph, meanwhile, he plays, a German soldier, but, he's, stood against, Hitler and stuff like that, so his views have shifted more towards the rest of our characters. I know a lot of people didn't like the War Pigs themselves, the young soldiers. Of course, they're arrogant, immature, a little full of themselves, a little naive. But I thought the main dickhead of the group, I thought was actually played decently. Cliches, sure. The movie had them. Don't go into this expecting like a big action war movie or something either. It didn't have the budget and it didn't pretend to. There's definitely some skirmishes, but there's no like big, explosive heavy battle or something. It turns into more of like a training thing, and then a recon mission. Then shit starts kind of going wrong. But even then, it's not quite big in scale, and that's fine. Like I said, Luke Goss did a decent enough job. Of course, they give Dolph Lundgren that accent to work with, which is fine. I actually thought Dolph Lundgren did give a pretty good performance, though. There's especially a couple of conversations he and Luke Goss's characters have that I actually felt, connected pretty well. Chuck Liddell was barely in it. You could forget about his role in it. Mickey Rourke, he's fine. I'm not sure why they paid the money for Mickey Rourke when they could have just put that toward the budget or something. For the rest of the production. And Mickey Rourke comes in wearing a cowboy hat and sunglasses and such, and he's supposed to be like this, big sergeant or whatever, and he's dressing like that. Probably just because he felt like it and he didn't feel like doing much, it's just like a little paycheck for him. And it was fine. I do enjoy Dolphin, and I do think there could have been a little more action to it. You do get badass seeing Dolph with a shotgun, though, and there's kind of a fun, training one where Dolph's just showing, the punk asses up with a knife and such. So that's pretty fun to see, and, a couple of different exchanges between Goss and Lundgren's characters I liked. I do think Lundgren could have been utilized more. Yes, he's older now, even in 2015, but I feel like they could have given him a bit more to do. But I still like the scenes I was involved in for sure, and it definitely made it worth the purchase. So, it has some obvious shortcomings just because of the type of budget movie it is, but I don't think it was too bad. It's hard to rate it. I want to give it like a 77%, but I'm not sure if I can go that high or not. But, within that C range, somewhere for sure. So then you guys thought about War Pigs. I don't think it was terrible. Next up and final, we're going to be talking a little bit about anyway, Doomsday, which came out in 2008 and was directed by Neil Marshall and stars Runa Mitra, Alex Siddig, Michael McDowell's in this. Emma Cleesby, who also happened to be in Dog Soldiers. And yes, this movie is directed by Neil Marshall, who directed some, really terrific horror flicks in both Dog Soldiers and the first Descent film. So watching this was quite the break from both of those. This one, it's definitely more of like a straight up B action sci-fi horror movie type thing. I like the most apocalyptic aspect of it. It's a futuristic action thriller where a team of people work to prevent a disaster threatening the future of the human race. It's a lot more. There's a lot more to it than that. Basically, people have gone. A lot of people anyway have gone, primitive and they're kind of savage by nature. And you have this whole elaborate backstory with Lorena Metra's character, who I like seeing in a lead role, because she was in Rise of the Lycan. She had a little role in The Strain season 4. She was in Hard Target 2 with Scott Adkins, and various other things over the years. It's good to see her in the lead. I think she's believable, both from a physical and kind of acting standpoint. Although she can be a bit wooden at times on that end. And the plot, well, more to it than you would initially think. I do feel like it gets a little convoluted towards the end. Or maybe not that I couldn't understand it, but it feels like it gets a little bit messy with how it's explained. It's not too bad though. It is also quite violent, which you're expecting with a Neil Marshall movie. It was definitely a pretty ambitious type of film for Neil Marshall to do, especially after there was more kind of small scale, isolated, concentrated horror films. And I still think that's where his best work lies. I didn't mind the new Hellboy either, despite all the crap that went on with that. But again, I do think Doomsday is his most ambitious project, and I thought it was pretty good. I think it could have been a bit better, though. It did feel a bit long, I remember, even though it's been a while since I watched it. It's only an hour and 45 or so, but it still felt, I don't know, a bit padded out, and yet it felt like it was, rushed through too, so I'm not exactly sure how to explain that. But not too bad. It's definitely one worth watching that I don't really think is talked about enough. And I'd give it like a 77% or so, give or take. But then you guys thought about that one. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.